Hello, good evening to you. Welcome to Business Focus here on TV3. My name is Asiedu-Dartey, and tonight we're getting into what you have been talking about, but from very different perspectives and angles this evening. The gas explosion a couple of days ago, almost 48 hours ago, has brought up many issues that has got a lot of people talking. But in the end, the way forward is the most important. The never again has to be actionable statement and not just one of those many cliches that happens to be said anytime there's a disaster. This evening, we're going to be focusing on the regulatory aspect of the preventive measures we're talking about going forward, so as to ensure there are no more gas explosions in this country. This is going to be a focus tonight here on Business Focus. As always, join us with your thoughts on various social media platforms, and you're welcome. We'll take a quick recall of some of the major news items that have been making the rounds in the world of business tonight. Hello, good evening to you. Welcome to Business Focus here on TV3. My name is Asiedu-Dartey, and tonight we're getting into what you have been talking about, but from very different perspectives and angles this evening. The gas explosion a couple of days ago, almost 48 hours ago, has brought up many issues that has got a lot of people talking. But in the end, the way forward is the most important. The never again has to be actionable statement and not just one of those many cliches that happens to be said anytime there's a disaster. This evening, we're going to be focusing on the regulatory aspect of the preventive measures we're talking about going forward, so as to ensure there are no more gas explosions in this country. This is going to be a focus tonight here on Business Focus. As always, join us with your thoughts on various social media platforms, and you're welcome. We'll take a quick recall of some of the major news items that have been making the rounds in the world of business tonight. Hello, good evening to you. Welcome to Business Focus here on TV3. My name is Asiedu-Dartey, and tonight we're getting into what you have been talking about, but from very different perspectives and angles this evening. The gas explosion a couple of days ago, almost 48 hours ago, has brought up many issues that has got a lot of people talking. But in the end, the way forward is the most important. The never again has to be actionable statement and not just one of those many cliches that happens to be said anytime there's a disaster. This evening, we're going to be focusing on the regulatory aspect of the preventive measures we're talking about going forward, so as to ensure there are no more gas explosions in this country. This is going to be a focus tonight here on Business Focus. As always, join us with your thoughts on various social media platforms, and you're welcome. We'll take a quick recall of some of the major news items that have been making the rounds in the world of business tonight. right, so those were some of the headlines making rounds in the business circles brought to you tonight here on Business Focus. We're getting into the discussion this evening. Already joined me in studio is Bernard Oridu, is the Public Relations Officer of the LPG Marketing Association.
No one which was anticipated, and it wasn't one which was actually delivered as well. Issues with delivery of LPG has a lot of safety aspects, and it is the case that our members consciously, do their best to ensure that the delivery of LPG is done in a safe manner. It is quite unfortunate, the event on Saturday, but there's one that we would say that we've learned some lessons from that situation, and going forward, we're going to improve on our methods of delivery. So opening, that's what I would say.
What are the lessons that you have learned? Because I have heard this statement made by your association, and this is not the first time I'm hearing this. We've had a number of gas explosions. You've made this same statement of lessons being learned. What kind of lessons are different from this?
Issues of gas delivery is not just an issue for LPG marketers. It's an issue for the entire nation. Because if you look at our operations, it involves almost a lot of the Ghanaian facets. The customers who patronize our outlets, the regulators, the safety people in terms of those who regulate our safety issues, the fire service, the town and country planning, and all those things. So issues of LPG delivery should not be left to the marketers alone, but it should be seen as a national issue, because before you get even the permit to operate an outlet, you have to deal with the EPA, sure. You would have to deal with the Petroleum Authority, you would have to deal with the town and country planning, as well as the fire service. So it is not an issue which should be reduced to just gas operators, but it should be seen as a national issue. And safety, of course, once it involves the life of human beings, it should be the concern of all. So for us, in as much as we try to do business, we also try to put safety first, because we are the first people who are exposed to these dangers. In the event of any explosion, the people who are the immediate victims will be our people. And it is not as if we take delight in having these explosions. And besides, we lose investments upon the happenings of these explosions. So I am of the view that issues of safety, issues of delivery of LPG should not be reduced to discussions only between probably some few people, being the marketers or the media. It should be a national issue that we would all have to come and discuss it.
I'm going to come back to you on this safety issue, but Zama, what did you observe from that perspective with your preliminary investigations into the issue?
You see, Alfred, my brother makes mention of delivery. When you get to a gas station, there are some minimums one is expected to adhere to. The minimums that is expected is that when you take the gas bulk, the truck, right, to the station, it is supposed to go off. The engines are supposed to go off. So that you introduce what is called the suction pump.
The discharge pumps.
To the discharge pumps, anyhow you refer to. So that will dislodge the product from the tanker to the pressured, bullets at the station.
Okay.
What happens across a lot of the retail outlets that we have visited?
No. Sorry,
we have had to go and independently verify, and I can state on authority that what happened on Saturday at the station, right, was another clear case of a suction pump or a discharge pump, right, either not functioning or not available. And so these LPG outlets end up discharging on the truck engine.
On the truck engine?
Yes.
But that exposes the product.
Thank you. So that is why I indicated earlier, we may look at the Chichinga theory and situate it properly. Even without the Chichinga operator, right, if you are discharging on the vehicle engine, the truck engine, right, because there are sparks from the exhaust, right, these are naked, sparks that could trigger anything. And if you do not get to cover fully, the slightest spark would send, the product back to the concentration. And so that is why I said earlier, even without the chichinga, so-called, right? Even without the product traveling, LPG would move, will graduate from one height to the other, given a certain time frame.
Right.
And so the minimum safety standards that they themselves are supposed to operate with at the stations seem to be lacking across a lot of the outlets. That I can confirm. There is what you also call whatever the return valve, right? That comes with vapor, right?
Yes.
The vapor line. The outlets are equally supposed to have that vapor line such that when you're discharging, there's a way you should be able to let the vapor out so that it doesn't build up too much pressure in the pressure bullets, right?
Right.
Some do not have that vapor line in place. And so in some instances, they open the pressure bullets to allow the vapor out. These are unsafe practices that we are seeing with our naked eyes. Unfortunately, when something happens, that is when we all come to the table to now discuss what should have been done. But they know very well. That is why I'll put this at the doorstep of the operator, right? The regulator could have gone there to check, right? But whilst you bring the products and knowing that you would have needed a discharge pump and you decide to discharge from, the engine of the truck, you are doing something wrong. So you are not only endangering your investment, but you are endangering innocent lives. 7 people have had to die from this explosion. Unfortunately, we can't bring them back. No matter how much investment is lost, those people are gone. We've seen this once, twice, the third time. I have predicted that if they continue with the sort of operations they have at the various, pump stations, these incidences are not going to end anytime soon, and we'll see a lot more in the coming days if these practices are allowed to continue.
Well, hopefully, I hope it doesn't happen. At least what Kojo Pongoma tells us is some 400 gas stations in residential locations, and that's quite a... Mr. Redu, with this explanation of the possible cause of this explosion on Saturday as given by Duncan Amoa, it's not a case in isolation. There's been similar explanations attributed to the number of gas explosions we've had in the past. So I'd want to find out what kind of safety measures you talk about that the association ensures that your members adhere to at the various pump stations that they operate.
Well, you see, on our own as an association, we actually did some investigations, and we realized that the BRV, that is the bulk vehicles, when they are discharging, pose some danger. So as we speak, I could say on authority that over 50% of our outlets have fitted these discharge pumps.
Over 50%?
Yes.
Let's assume that's true. The other 50%, what's happening to them?
You see, the point is that issue of safety is one that we take very serious. It is upon our own investigations. You see, we need to understand the operations of LPG because we need to know where the vehicles move from when they come to us and all that. We as an association have issued a directive that our members should fit these engine discharge pumps. So today, you could do an independent verification. If you should visit most of our outlets, we have this engine out. I won't say that. Let me finish.
Yeah,
I won't say that all of our members have these discharge pumps fitted, but majority of our members do have these pumps.
But I'm going to go by your own estimation.
Yes.
Just some few seconds ago,
which I dispute anyway.
You did say that about a little over 50% of your members have complied with a directive that you issued.
You see, it is a process.
I'm coming to a point. Let's
They are
assume
supposed
that
to have that even before they start operating.
that's number one. Ms. Oredu, a regulation or a requirement for your operation is for you to have this discharge pump.
Let me make this clear. Let me make this clear.
Is that the case?
No, it is not a requirement.
You're not supposed to have it before you.
This issue of discharge pumps was something that we discovered and we actually agreed amongst ourselves to fit. Because you see, the whole idea is this. Let me just explain.
Okay,
let me
please,
just explain.
please.
It's in the standards code.
It's
in the standards code.
Let me just explain.
Yes.
As operators, I don't think it should take somebody outside us to tell us what we should do in terms of our safety issues. But we go to such people to learn. As we speak right now, we educate our members regularly on issues of safety. He would attest that some of our people invite technical people like him to give them education. You see, it is not a one-off something. It is a process. It is not just an event of a day.
But I want to go by what you're saying.
Yes.
I mean, if you came amongst yourselves and concluded that you want to have these discharge pumps, I find that very curious, because if that is a safety measure that has to be adopted before you start operations, how come that, and Duncan, you're saying it is in
the
standards code.
Yes.
So how does that fit into what you're saying, that you agreed amongst yourselves as though it is not a regulatory requirement?
You see, the point is that before you put up an outlet, there are some procedures you would have to go through. Some are prescribed by the regulators, some by the fire service, some by the town and country, some as well as the EPA. Our members have gone through all these things to get the permit to establish the outlets. Issues of safety, we have not left it to these regulators. We on our own are doing things to ensure that our investments are protected, lives are protected. You see, I won't hold forth for the incident on Saturday. Of course, it is obvious that at that station, they had not fitted this discharge pump, which for us is a bit worrying, because we thought at this time most of our members have done it. So, just like I said, lessons are learned and improvements will be made. It is not as if every outlet that dispenses LPG is a death trap or an explosion in waiting. It cannot be the case, because majority of our members have fitted these pumps and they are taking safety issues high as well.
I was actually, I wanted to find out if you say majority, if you could put a figure to it, because I was worried when you said early on that over 50% have fitted this discharge pumps. And you even doubt that.
I have a problem with that.
I want to assume, let's assume that 50% have indeed these discharge pumps. How about the other 50% who don't have this discharge pumps? And they are actually still operating.
You see,
Asiedu.
I made the point that issues of safety is not a one-off event. It's a process. It is not as if today an outlet is set up and it is the case that all issues come up. It is as and when they come up. Because you see, the point is that before we start operating, we would have gone through some inspection. You see where I'm coming from? And we would have been granted the license to operate. So it is not as if we don't comply with all the safety issues. We do. This issue of fitted pumps that he's talking about, I don't have the figures yet, but I'm very much convinced that over 50% of our members have fitted the pumps.
Let's say that's true. I mean, Duncan, I want to just grant it over 50%. It still doesn't settle the worries of many people.
What invariably it means, Alfred, if I can help.
No.
What it means, even if we are to take 50%, what it means is that the other 50 are still discharging. Wait, they are discharging from the truck engines.
Which is
potentially disastrous to anybody around. And so I was not surprised that if you hear accounts of what happened at the atomic gas station, you are told the driver at some point realized there was a leakage. He couldn't handle it. Together with the mate, they had to, escape. Very well. But granted that you had a discharge pump, on site.
It could have been prevented.
Even if there was a tiny leakage, what it does is sometimes it decouples, right?
Yeah.
The moment there's a leakage somewhere, it has a way of breaking, the discharge. Just so you can,
be able to manage the situation.
But when you don't have these things and you are operating daily, Alfred, that is the danger. So I have said that this is not surprising. It is not isolated. If we do not take drastic steps immediately to correct the sort of operations that they have. Alfred, what is even more worrying, let me add, is that they could equally have fitted, these leakage alarms, detectors, right?
Yes.
That immediately triggers to give you a certain signal. The moment, some leakage begins, do a visit of most of the LPG MCs, and you would realize that they either don't have them, or they are malfunctioning, or they don't even exist altogether. Clearly, there are challenges with their operations, and we think that the best way out now will be to audit all of them.
Audit all of them, and that's exactly what the point is, because the National Petroleum Authority, NPA, is to employ 200 auditors to enforce fuel station regulations across the country. The Energy Minister, Boakye Jako, gave the hint on the sidelines of the inauguration of a new board for the Ghana Gas Company. Let's go listen to him.
The Energy Minister explained new policy guidelines are being worked on to improve operations at the downstream petroleum sector.
For the past 6 months, we've been working on a new policy document to be approved by Cabinet to become the operating principles. We've extensively engaged stakeholders in the operations of that new policy. And I must admit that we've received some resistance from some vested interest.
He hinted on the employment of 200 auditors across the country to enforce regulations and policies at the fuel stations.
There has been a policy that petrol stations must be sited 500 meters apart and gas stations must be sited 1,000 meters apart. Those are there. NPA does not have the teeth of the law behind it. So part of what we are going to do is to make sure we pass regulations that have the teeth of the law for them to be able to enforce.
He said it is time for gas stations to be located outside populated areas to allow for bottling and delivery services to conform with international best practices.
More importantly, we have to come to the sensible and the logical position of having bottling plants outside population centers, well under control, both technical and safety, so that they rather do the filling and bring to us in our homes the filled cylinders.
Many explosions in the downstream petroleum sector have led to death, injuries and destruction of property.
So that's one of the measures taking, 200 auditors you were talking about, and some other things that the Minister of Energy said.
You see, Alfred, this will be temporary. Very. Auditing the outlets is good, but it would have been better if we had permanent safety officers who don't just come in because it's a disaster and today we need to just find out whether all the outlets are operating under safer conditions or safe.
Right.
If you go and put in 200 and a month later you withdraw them, right? What happens is that we'll go back to the woods. We would have expected that they could even do zoning, right? Where each zone, Greater Accra, you could do about 8 zones. You put about 5 to 10 inspectors whose job it is to do the stations day to day. What time to discharge, what temperature conditions, physical conditions you are discharging products at, And these inspectors should be given some autonomy and independence, such that once they detect either a leakage, they detect pumps are not functioning as they should, they should be able to bring operations of the outlet to a close. Because safety is much more important. I would be happy for an outlet to lose the day sales, right, than to lose the investment altogether. And so if there's some 1 or 2 lapses here and there that these inspectors come across, they should be able to say, look, because of A, B, C, you can't discharge at this time, right? And they should insist. Before you discharge, these inspectors must be around and present, right? To give you the green light to say, look, A, B, C, D is in place. Okay, let's go ahead. If something blows up, that inspector could be held, because they are like independent, all together. But if you throw them in for a month, they go to do an audit and return, I can assure you that After the audit, you may punish 10 or 15 of them. The others, you didn't find anything with. Something could go wrong again the next day, and there's nobody else to correct it. So we would want this to be a rather permanent fixture now, just to continue to protect human lives and investments, than the temporal solution.
So initially, I did indicate that issues of safety should not be left to us alone as operators. It's an issue of a national color. And we really are amenable to such move, to have auditors come around to audit us. You see, the point is that we are in operation.
Okay.
We engage people to advise us. We engage people to actually give us clues as to our operational methods. But if we should get our regulators directly involved in safety issues on a regular basis, it's going to be very important, and it will really help us. Because you see, it is going to come from NPA. They are regulators. All that I would add is that, like my friend said, they should be given some authority to bite, to the extent that they should have the mandate for on-site penal attributes.
Right.
So if they come to any of our outlets and they think that we lack this particular thing, they should be able to, on the spot, try to issue out a directive. It is not the case that they give us 2 weeks to remedy and all that. We are all for anything that would ensure safety of our delivery. That we are all for it. Anything that would ensure the safety.
Thank you very much. And all the new policies being moved on now is the redistribution policy. It's one thing that, Duncan, in 30 seconds, I'll seek your thoughts on, because we need to round up on this one.
Alfred, recirculation, not a problem. It's good. Let's do it such a way these investors would not lose their investments overnight. And then again, if we also renege on issue of standards at the micro level, when you get to the macro point where you are going to have 4 big depots, if the standards are not stringent there, this is a small explosion, we are crying. If it is a bigger depot, you can imagine the extent of damage that it will do to all of us.
That's logic at play. Thank you, Duncan Amo. I'm
Thank
grateful.
you,
As Secretary of COPEC, I'm grateful to you. Bernard Oredu is the Public Relations Officer of the LPG Marketing Association of Ghana. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me this evening. You're still live on Business Focus. I'll be back shortly with our mover of the week. If you want to hear a story, pretty interesting, to stay. Welcome back to Business Focus, and we're going into our mover of the week. This mover segment, we celebrate Ghanaian entrepreneurs who are doing well, and startups that have been able to put their dreams into action, and giving them this platform to propel and also expand the frontiers of their ventures. And this is what we do, celebrating entrepreneurs here on Business Focus. And today, Francis Kofiga is our mover for today. He's a CEO of Dolman Foods. With a background in BSc Physics, he later went on to Meltwater Entrepreneurial School of Technology, MEST, where he trained in software development and entrepreneurship. He is an adventure-seeking person with the vision to make a global impact. On a very normal day, Francis is either seeking new business opportunities, networking, or reading a book to find out what's new out there. Francis, good to have you.
Thank you, boss.
Wonderful. You know, the first time I enjoyed your donut, or the variety of what you do, is when a colleague of mine, Eddie Kwabi, brought one to the office.
Oh,
tantalizing. I don't see anything having to do with bakery in the profile that you sent to me. So where did you learn Dolman? Where did all this come from? I see physics, I see something to do with entrepreneurship and all. Really?
Cool. So very simple. I like business. If you ask any young person, they'll tell you that they want to make money. But to me, it's more of making an impact. It's more of creating an avenue where you can have a sustained impact. So I know I did have a background in physics. I have a background in IT. but also I had a background in graphic designing. And then I chanced on this woman that was doing donuts. She was selling me probably 20 or 30 pieces.
Normal donuts that we buy.
Yes, just the regular sugar one that you see with the sugar at the bottom.
Yeah.
So she was doing that on a regular day. So I spoke to a woman, how many do you do? She said, I do maybe 20 or 30 pieces in a day. And then I thought, what if with my IT background and then with graphic designing, we could come up with nice adverts and then advertise the donut and then get it out there. And the woman was like, oh, well, so we started with, let's just take it from shop to shop. If people will buy, it is these people who already sell meat spice and stuff that will give us the money, their validation. We took it to them, they said, we don't know, people don't buy. Then we said, let's now go to social media. Let's advertise there. It's social media that actually blew everything up.
Absolutely.
And then so we put together a team, we got machinery, and then started the whole company.
So you use the power of social media to your advantage. Exactly. Now, tell me about, the moment you approached this lady, she bought into your dream, but how did you put together the team to start this whole business? I want to know.
Okay, so I have this young fellow that says he wants to be like me.
Wow.
For what he's seeing, I'm sure it's some divine element. He says he wants to be like me. So I initially gave him some transportation, and I say, here are donuts. Just move from shop to shop. Convince them to buy. He said, okay, I'll go. Then he goes, he comes back, he says, oh, only one person said they are interested in it. So that was he was the first employee. And then I have this very special friend. She's very creative with her hands. She can do also the boxes. I don't even know if you've seen the boxes.
Special friends come in very handy.
I tell you.
Yeah.
I tell you. She does all the boxes. I don't know whether you've seen her writings. Like
yeah,
she's very.
I have.
She's very, very, very talented. So I spoke to her. She was then working with a media agency, and she was doing their graphic designing and stuff. So I said, Charlie, I have this idea. I want to use my graphic design. Can you come with me? Let's do it. She said, I'll give you part time, and then I'll be with. So it was after 6 months we are starting that she saw the potential, that she actually resigned from a former place that she came to join us. And then the person who actually does the donut, it's a long story. I do think
Summarize it for me.
So basically, the woman didn't want to teach us a recipe, because she thought we are taking the business away.
It's very normal.
So we had to this is a long story. Eventually, we got somebody that was doing their job, and it was fantastic.
So the first woman you approached to do the donut for you didn't buy into the business idea. You had to get someone else.
She bought it initially, but she thought it would just die off.
Okay.
Because we told her you do maybe X, maybe 20, or maybe she was doing 20 in a day. So we said you do up to 50, at most 100. So she thought it was cool. But when you started going to 200, she was like, Charlie, I'm getting tired though. This thing is not it's not as easy as I thought. And so she would be sluggish. Can you do 200 by 7 a.m.? So, and then she's giving all sorts of excuses. So we had to idea it. We had to keep on going.
So those were some of the initial challenges you faced. But was finances ever a problem?
It was and it wasn't. It was because let me start from there. It wasn't a problem because I had some money from my previous job. I was building software for companies, mobile apps, websites, and all that. So I had some small money that I could use to fund the business. But when we moved to 300 and 400, and then we had to be
400 a day,
400 pieces a day.
Wow. And
we had to be getting the toppings. I don't know whether you've seen. Currently we have 30 flavors now.
The one I tasted, kindly given to me by the Kwabi, had some coconut.
Okay.
The other one had some granuts.
The granuts, yes.
And then you have one with chocolate
jam,
in it.
We have custard, we have vanilla, we have strawberry. There's only 30 of them.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So getting the ingredients at a point was challenging, but we then came up with a different promotion. So if you are on our website or
so just viewers to know, that's what you see on your screens right now, how Doman does his donuts. It's just so you dip it in there, and then
that's the chocolate.
The chocolate.
Then there's the blueberry, and then with the coconut.
So you dip it into the coconut.
Into the coconut, exactly. So that's blueberry coconut. We have. So there's a box that can take 12.
12 different flavors.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, so, and then the white one there you're holding, that's the Milky Way. That's milk with coconut shavings.
I see. What else? Earlier on, spoke about finances and how you got over it. But basically, what are some of the other challenges that you encountered, and how did you go about
Finding
overcoming them?
reliable staff.
Reliable staff.
I thought if everybody is looking for a job, it should be very easy to find people to employ. It's not as easy as it was.
With the rate of unemployment in the system,
With the rate
you
of
couldn't get anybody.
getting people. In fact, getting people and getting credible people, trustworthy people, especially the dispatch riders, because we do both cash and mobile money. So you send them, say, go to Tessan or go and deliver to somebody, or go to Osu, and then the person goes, and the person is supposed to take money and bring it back to you. The person can just drive off. Go
and take the money away.
Take the money away. You have to trust the dispatch rider will bring it back and all that. It was tiring. I've lost close to 500 cedis or so on just delivery guys that didn't bring back money or came up with all sorts of excuse. The policeman caught me. My brake failed me, so I had to go and pass by the mechanic. So many stories. So many stories.
So
Getting
the
reliable
element of trust.
Yes, getting reliable. It was tough before, but now we sort of figured it out. If you are going to just pay them salary, they in their minds, you are selling close to 1,000 donuts a day, and then you are just giving us a basic salary. They feel you are making more money than them. So now we say, okay, based on the number of deliveries that you go, we give you a commission. So now they know that the faster they do it and the more work they do, the more money they make. So it's more like a win-win situation for both of us.
So you give them a daily commission?
Not even daily, it's delivery commission.
So the number of deliveries you make.
Exactly.
How many workers do you have in
Currently we are 12.
12. That's apart from the dispatch riders.
Yeah, apart from the dispatch riders. So there are 6 dispatch riders, and there are 6 in-house. The call team, those who answer calls, answer the social media, answer WhatsApp messages, and then there are people who do the packing.
Tell me about how the social media advantage helped you in expanding. I mean, beyond just 1 or 2 people you were contacting yourself.
When we took social media, we had to tag a lot of people because then we didn't have followers, obviously. We didn't have followers on social media, Facebook to be precise. Then we delivered, so we started doing free sampling. We're sampling freely to, we're sending samples to CTFM. I remember we sent to Heritage Towers. We would just go from office to office. It was tiring because people were eating a thing free, but they weren't ordering. But we got, it was Philip Ashong, yes. Philip just took a picture of it and said, "Oh, Doman, thank you for bringing the donuts." He took it and put it on the Twitter timeline, and then people just started resharing. People started resharing, and then the audience just boomed in like that. Then Nashoko received a package. She put it on a timeline, and then everybody started calling. We want the same thing.
Amazing.
And it's been awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
I think you should try the Kwabi as well, and then and Wendy Lai.
Awesome.
They're going to help you do that. Amazing people. But thank you. We can only wish you well on this. So in the next few years to come, future plans, your objective, what's the mission in expansion?
The mission is to actually have a franchise so that we can go global. We don't want to be local champions. It's fine to make money from Ghana, but if we can expand and go global, why not? We want to come up with a unique recipe that can even compete with brands like Dunkin' Donuts and Krispy Kremes.
Fantastic.
Want to help eliminate poverty.
Yeah, helping to eliminate
and feed orphanages. So usually when there are remnants, we send out to the poor and people who are hungry so that at least they can also feed.
That's good stuff. Thank you. Francis Koviga is the CEO of Doman Foods. You should try it. Amazing. When are you coming up with that chomo? Hopefully. I'll be back shortly with the stocks and also the commodities market analysis. Do stay. All right, welcome back to Business Focus. Ben Amwa is here. He's an analyst with First Bank. Ben is synonymous to stocks and commodities. It's good to have you, Ben.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I woke up with some smiles on my face because the city is gaining.
It's gaining strength.
Talk to me about it.
Well, it's largely because of the cocoa board loan, which has hit the banks. The central bank, as of I think last 2 weeks or last week. And you know, every year around this time of the year, when that money flows in, and normally it comes at the same time as the Eurobond. But this year there has been no Eurobond. But
yes.
the cocoa board loan is still quite substantial. It's $1.3 billion. And that's still enough money to be able to move the markets, because it's adds to the central bank's reserves. And even though that money is going to be used up over the course of time, currently the central bank has a large arsenal of foreign reserves to fight any kind of cedi depreciation. And that's basically why the cedi has been picking up against. It's quite extraordinary, because last week a lot of African currencies actually lost against the dollar.
Sure.
But the cedi did well.
Absolutely. and
Which is extraordinary.
How sustainable is this extraordinary performance?
Like I said, it's something we see every year around this time, you know, when the money hits the central bank. So it's largely normal. What we see then is that a little after this, you know, heading into the Christmas with all the imports, the cedi depreciates further a little. But I think this year the cedi has done fairly well against the dollar, and if you see that going on until the end of the year, we don't expect anything more than, say, 5% depreciation against the dollar at close of December 2017.
But the same cannot be said for the other
The other currencies, largely because the euro has picked up significantly. You know, this euro has been weak for a very long time, and the pound suffered the same fate after the Brexit vote last year.
Yeah.
Now both currencies are coming from lows, so I mean the shoot up has been quite substantial, which is why the cedi has performed very poorly against both the euro and the pound. But I believe that it's not that bad, because most of the imports that we bring into the country and which influences inflation are actually denominated in dollars. So as long as we can maintain the stability against the dollar, the inflationary risk is a little more subdued.
Right.
I mean, even if we lose against the pound and the euro.
That's some good news.
Yeah,
It's
of course,
something
that's
to really look at. Let's go into the commodities market now.
Okay, so what we are seeing is that gold is suffering because the dollar is picking up finally.
Absolutely.
And it's expected to continue like that because the US is likely to increase its interest rates in December. And whenever the US does that, gold suffers.
Sure.
So it's likely that gold might be dropping below the 1,200 level we've been seeing it hit in recent times. Cocoa is also enjoying some kind of rebound, largely because of increased demand for chocolate and other confectionery products from the US and in Asia. You know, we are heading towards the Christmas, and that's the time for chocolate. So actually it benefits cocoa a little, and we are seeing cocoa rise as a result of that. Oil has also enjoyed some marginal gains because of the hurricanes and all the issues the US Southwest and the Midwest have been having with the hurricanes and all that. So it has also allowed oil to bounce back a little, although we believe that that is not really sustainable, because the effects will eventually wane off after a few weeks, and then we will see oil probably drop back to between $50 and $55. Yeah.
But how does this, indecisiveness on the part of OPEC, after all this is over, play into...
I wouldn't say OPEC has been indecisive. I would just say their plans didn't work as well as they thought it would. I think it just goes to show that they don't have as much market power as they did in the 70s and the 80s. Currently, they control less than 50% of the market. If you are doing that, you can't really, especially when you are competing against such efficient producers like Norway, Canada, and the US, all of whom are not even in OPEC. And Ghana, for instance, has doubled its oil production between last year and this year, and we are not even in OPEC. So you are restricting supply, you are trying to cut production, but everybody else is pumping. And you can think of Nigeria and Iraq and the effect they're having on the market.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ben. And I'm very grateful for this. And as always, join Ben every other Monday with the stocks and the commodities analysis as well here. But the stock market, at least,
has done. It's been fairly stable now. I think some of the banks had dropped, but last week was also good for them somewhat. So it kind of balanced out from the previous week's losses. You know, they just recovered some of those losses.
Hopefully. Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Grateful.
Right.
Ben Amwa is with First Bank, analyst with First Bank, joining us this evening here on Business Focus. On behalf of the rest of the team, we're grateful that you spent some time with us. Stay with us as we go on to News 360. My name is Alfred Akansi. Have a good evening.